So I thank you all for this session. We are finishing a few minutes early, but if anyone would like to share a few comments before we finish, please feel free to do so in all of what have been discussed today. Thank you, Raj.
So I'm sorry I wasn't here throughout the day, so this might have already been discussed, so I apologize if it has been. So the question I had was, so this week, as some of you may be aware, there was a ministerial meeting happening in Papua New Guinea as well, right? It was a regional ministerial. I haven't actually looked at what was on the agenda for that meeting, but what I'm wondering is, there were some great outputs that came out of here and yesterday and in other fora around this week here. The thing I'm wondering is, how do we table that at the political level with the ministries and the departments and even higher up, maybe the Prime Minister's office or wherever? Because it's nice having these discussions, but then in order to effect change or implement change, it really has to have that political will, right? And this is something with Andrew we've been discussing for literally decades, right? So if anyone has any thoughts, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but I just would like to know what people are thinking and saying as well, and what can we do? So thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Raj. We have a session this afternoon, like a recommendation session. So that would be something that we can discuss more on that. But
one of the common themes that has come out through all of the discussions that I've heard is everything needs to be community driven, right? There's no point in Dave from APNIC turning up saying, hey, you guys need to do this. That's not helping anybody. Community has to drive the change, but the change has to be sustainable. And this comes into the other problem, which Raj just raised, is we need government buy-in to make these things sustainable. It's all well and good having the ideas, but if we don't have government buy-in to assist with funding or know where to get the funding to do it, then as someone else mentioned in our group, it's going to be the typical Pacific scenario of let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's get it started, and then it stops. And we see this a lot. This is not uncommon. So we need the will to change. And I think the way to do that is through direct community engagement. Make the community responsible for the decisions.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, that is community-driven is the key. And I understand that we will discuss more on that this afternoon. But yes, let's have
just a couple of things on his issue on how to make it to the ministerial level. I'm not sure about other countries, but I'm speaking on behalf of the government of Samoa. This is where the CEO advises the minister before all these meetings. So after this meeting, because we the CEOs prepare speeches, ministerial speeches, and advices to ministers before they go to these meetings. And when we get back from these other meetings, we prepare reports to our governments on the issues that we discuss in these meetings. So that's our way into our country, into our cabinet, is for us to prepare reports and give it to them. And then the instruction is coming whether we proceed with this or not. But my understanding from the organizers, there should be a way for them to compile. I'm willing to present this because usually Pacific Island ICT ministerial meetings, the CEOs prepare the meetings for the ministers. So we have discussions. So before this actual meeting in PNG, we have been talking with other CEOs. This all started from Romania when we went to the ITU election. That's when we have the ministers' ICT meeting within that time. And they instructed us to discuss, prepare the issues that we need, and present it to the ministers before the actual meeting. So last week was the last meeting, virtual meeting we have to discuss and agree on the final declaration for all the ministers to agree on. So that's I just like to tell you guys about that so that we can have an understanding from the government perspective and how the process is done. But I'd like to comment on the Group 1's findings on just one thing that really bothers me is, given that they mentioned, which is a very good point, they mentioned awareness for our people, building their capacity to distinguish what's wrong and what is right on all different platforms. The thing that bothers me, and I've raised this in another level, is the fact that we all have different languages. All Pacific Islands have different language, which is not recognized by any of the platforms. And the 100% of the misinformation and disinformation is done in our respective language, Samoan language. And Facebook will never recognize that. So what I was trying to say is for them to come up with how can we approach this? Because that will create jobs for our people. They can work for all these platforms to be interpreters. Because when I asked the vice president of Meta in one of the meetings we had in San Francisco, he said to me, their immediate solution is use AI, which is okay, but it's not acceptable in our values in the Pacific. We have a unique culture that no one else in this whole world has, just the Pacific. So that's what bothers me. I would like us to come up with some sort of understanding on this issue, because I want them to understand we all have different language and they don't know what those languages are. They can't understand how much misinformation and disinformation on their platforms because they don't understand our language, the language that we're using every day and abuse other people on their platforms. Thank you.
Sorry, Andrew. Just to add on to that, as alluded earlier by our colleagues from APNIC and by the Madam CEO, is that there's never been any time in the past years that the ministers are talking about cybersecurity. That is this year. Nearly all the meetings they've been talking about cybersecurity, and we have experienced that in Fiji. We have the Minister of Communication talking about cybersecurity, our Minister from the Home Affairs talking about cybersecurity, and even the Prime Minister is talking about cybersecurity. So the opportunity is there that government is willing to hear anyone who has a collaborative or a solution to address this in their own Pacific Island nation. And we use that opportunity to leverage our agenda on the sense of national security and critical infrastructure. And we had a good support from government in that regard. And I know that if we take this back to them, they will be able to listen. Coming up is the Pacific Cybersecurity Conference, organized by OCSC and GFCE, that is run by PIF. This is in accordance to the Boy Declaration and other declaration for regional security that ties up to cybersecurity. Now there's another great opportunity to address these leaders and show them the initiative and the agendas that we would like to discuss with them in regards to this. And I would like to suggest to everyone here that we have a good opportunity here. All we need is as alluded by our colleague from APNIC, is to be driven locally by the local people at the various Pacific Islands. They have to drive this with the support of our regional organizations that are present in this room. Navalu.
Thank you, Save. and Madam CEO. Sarai?
Thank you. I just want to comment on the issue or the matter that raised by the last group, and which is true, the limitations of our research group within the Pacific. But I just want to note that for everyone's information, between FNU, NUS, and USB, they have their group of researchers, like emeritus researchers. So it's existing, but that's pertaining only for academia. But I think this is another aspect that missing out from our side, from our discipline, is the research within ICT. Only those in the academia institution that conducted research regarding ICT and technology. But within us already in the industry, I think we have limitations in accessing to research perspective. I think it's something that for us to look at because of these technology involvements that we need to do to go with the research, and some baseline for us to guide and to assist us with making our decisions. My second comment is for the group 2. If you guys come up or find any regulations or policies or frameworks in ICT procurement within the Pacific, given that it's so expensive when it comes to the Pacific, comparing, say for example, from Samoa, if we procure a set of computers, getting quotes from our local companies is so expensive compared to overseas. So if there are, your countries, because we obviously nothing in Samoa that we can procure. There's a policy for procuring ICT equipment. Only when we go to, if it's an educational purpose, then we have to go to the Ministry of Education to get a special, some tariff or whatever they call it in terms of customs. But collectively from the Pacific perspective, if there's, some countries in the Pacific that have that kind of regulations or framework to assist other countries so that minimize the costs. Thank you.
Okay, let me just respond to the question that was raised by Rajnesh. One of the best forums that we can push this is the crop ICT. The reason being because the forum has a representative in that ICT group. So if we take this and Ferretti, who is the USB, is also part of this group. He's also the chair of the crop ICT. So if we push this outcome from this meeting through the crop ICT, which I am also part of, we can actually get that one up to the forum. Remember that the forum is the political arm of the Pacific, and when they actually push an agenda that relates to what has come out of this meeting, the leaders will actually take notice of that. And with the help of each of the government that are here, already have something in support of the outcome of this meeting, it will be a lot easier to approve what has come out of this meeting because the governments are aware, and also from the political side or the regional side, they are actually pushing that. So I suggest that whoever is responsible for the outcome of this meeting to actually get Ferretti to put this as part of the agenda for the crop ICT so that it will be tabled in the next meeting, which the forum will be taking notice of what came out of this meeting. That's what I suggest. Thank you.
I think we have 2 minutes, Anju.
Clarification. Just a point of clarification. One is CROP means it's the regional organizations of the Pacific that come together every year to discuss the mandate of the Pacific Regional ICT Framework. That is currently being reviewed. It's also at the table in terms of discussions with the ministry at the ministerial level, and they're discussing whether or not USP is the right organization to take it forward. So there's quite a lot of politics as well behind the scenes, but what we really need is champions from here, like Unatua has mentioned, and we've got Noya, we've got so many great people, Sarai, Selu, etc., is to push from the bottom-up approach and not just have a high level, because a lot of the discussions at the crop ICT, and forgive me for saying this, Sakayo, from an FFA point of view is that it's very high level. They have never been so inclusive in bringing the multi-stakeholder group for discussions. The other thing I want to point to is that in 2019, we had a lot of those ministers, Honorable Minister Simon Kofe, Honorable Minister Tuelupe, we had Minister Timothy Masiu and few others joining the discussions online, right? They were very adamant that they wanted these discussions to be at the national level. But one of the challenges that they had was to make sure that everything is aligned, because there's a lot of discussions happening at the regional, happening at the national. So how do you basically bring all of them together? The other point is that last year we had the Asia Pacific, I know, one more minute, Asia Pacific regional IGF, and Minister Timothy Masiu and from PNG and all his delegates were there, and they committed that they were going to support the Pacific IGF in PNG back to back with the APT meeting, which is the Asia Pacific Telecommunity, and also the PNG Pacific ICT ministerial meeting. But because of delays, Auda, thank you so much, Auda, you came in and you supported for this year, but next year onwards, they are very keen. And this is where I would say, please bring it back to the national and take it forward from there.
Thank you, Anju, for that summary and concluding comments. Yes, we're going to have that discussion further this afternoon for the recommendation. So thank you all for your contributions. And I must say, it is a very rich and overwhelming discussion that we had in the last session. So thank you very much.